What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Alright, so before I get into this video, I want to give a shout out to the brother Anthony for the donations to the channel via the Cash App. Much respect to you for showing love to Too Raw for TV, aka Too Raw for Sports. Alright, so I have a question that was given to me by a subscriber. And he wanted me to at least give my reasons why in 1993-94 Dominique Wilkins was traded to the Clippers in essence for Danny Manning. Why did this happen? I can understand, here we are some 30 years later. Why did this trade happen? You have one guy who is one of the greatest players of his generation being traded for a guy who is, one of the bigger disappointments. Not that he couldn't play, because he could, but he was a disappointment overall. So why would they trade him? Well, you got to look at everything that was going on at that time, and there are other issues at play that you had to have been there to understand. And then, and only then, when you look deeper in the situation, does it make sense, at least at that time. Now, on the surface, it doesn't make sense. The Hawks were 57-25 that year. This is one of the best Hawks teams, if not the best Hawk team of the Dominique Wilkins era. And for the first time during the era of Dominique, there was no real juggernaut team in the way to hinder at least an Eastern Conference Finals run, if not a Finals run. There were no Boston Celtics, Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish teams. There was no, Philadelphia 76ers team very early on with Moses and Dr. J and Barkley and them. There was no deep bad boy Pistons team. That team was pretty much gone by now, right? There was no Bulls teams because Michael Jordan had retired prior to the season. So, with the exception of the Pacers and the Knicks, I guess, there was no real contenders. Even that Magic team didn't really start becoming of age until the next season. So why make this move? Part of it had to do with age, money is another part of it, and coaching style. Let me start with coaching style first because I think this gets forgotten. 1993-94 was the first year that Lenny Wilkins was the head coach of the Atlanta Hawks. Prior to that, he was the head coach, I believe, of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Lenny Wilkins, if you look at the teams that he coached, the Portland Trailblazers, the Sonics, and later on the Knicks and the Raptors and the Hawks right here, right? Those teams were more predicated on teamwork, and there was more ball movement, and usually those teams had multiple players who were involved offensively. So when you have a guy like Dominique Wilkins, who demands the basketball so much, doesn't really fit in the Lenny Wilkins system. So Lenny Wilkins was not crazy about him. Lenny Wilkins was crazy about Danny Manning, who was arguably, was he as dominant as Dominique Wilkins? No. But you could argue he was maybe a better all-around player when healthy, but he wasn't better, if that makes any sense. It may not. He was better all around, but he wasn't as dominant as Dominique Wilkins, is what I'm trying to get at. So Lenny Wilkins felt like Danny Manning was a better fit to his team. Danny Manning had already let it be known that he did not want to stay in Los Angeles, the Clippers. Danny Manning was coming up the best season of his career. Let's see if I can pull up those numbers. 1992-93. He averaged 22.8 points, 6.6 rebounds, 2.6 assists, 1.4 steals, 1.3 blocks, 51% shooting from the floor, 27% from three, which was pretty decent for a big man back then because big men didn't shoot threes, and 80% from the foul line. Matter of fact, 93-94 with the Clippers, right? Career high 23.7 points per game, 7 rebounds, 4.2 assists, 1.3 steals, 1.4 blocks, 49% shooting from the floor, and 67% from the foul line. So what I'm getting at is, at the time of the trade, Danny Manning was at the peak of his powers as an NBA player. At the peak of his powers. Dominique Wilkins wanted more money. Both of these men were going to be, I think, unrestricted free agents at the end of the 93-94 season. Dominique Wilkins wanted a big payday. But the Hawks were reluctant to do that because of the fact that Dominique was 33 years old going on... Matter of fact, no, in 94... he turned 34. He was 33 at the beginning of the season, but in January he turned 34. So he was 34 years old. And he wanted a big payday. But you got to remember, Dominique in January of 1992 in a game in Philadelphia tore his Achilles. And at that time, no player had ever successfully come back from a Achilles rupture and been a dominant player. Dominique Wilkins was the first. But there were still some concerns about injuries with Dominique, right? So you got an aging player who suffered a catastrophic injury, which he was fortunate to come back from, but still, you're concerned about that if you're Atlanta. Do we want to give this guy that amount of money? Do we want to really sign him to another big contract when he's 34 years old? You know, don't know about that. So these were all factors. And that's why they traded him. That's why they traded him for Danny Manning. Now, ultimately, it was a bad trade for both sides, really, because Dominique only played there for half a season, and then in 94-95, as a free agent, he signed with the Boston Celtics, I think for 1 year. He signed with the Boston Celtics. Danny Manning only played half a season with the Hawks, only averaged 15.7 points per game. And then afterward, he signed with the Phoenix Suns. Even though 46 games into the season, I see he got hurt. But he didn't play with them in the 95 playoffs. So really, in essence, the Hawks traded Dominique for nothing. They traded him for nothing. Now, if I'm not mistaken, with Dominique Wilkins, the Hawks were 34-13. And afterwards, they went 23-14 with Danny Manning. That's pretty good. But with Dominique, they were on pace to have the best record in the NBA that year. So some people still to this day wonder, man, should they have at least signed a 2-year deal with Dominique and kept him on, and just out of loyalty, because the fact the guy had been there that long. You trade away. Man, I'm telling you, when that trade happened, bro, when Atlanta traded Dominique Wilkins away, I'm pretty sure the team owner and the front office, whoever they were, them motherfuckers had the goddamn power to hire security to go out their house. They, that's still to this day maybe one of the most unpopular Atlanta-based sports trades ever. Ever. But anyway, I hope that answers your question, man. That's pretty much why that trade happened, you know. And matter of fact, I think there was some other byproduct of that trade, something dealing with Harold Miner. Is it Harold Miner? No, not Harold Miner. What's his name? Greg Miner. Greg Miner, that's it. I think. No. Let me. I think it was something with. I can't remember now. I thought it was something with Greg Miner, but he played with Boston. But I can't remember. I can't remember the details now of that trade. But anyway, that's essentially why they were traded for each other. And to me, Atlanta got nothing out of it. You know what I'm saying? But they were able to quickly rebuild and rebound, and they got Mount Mutombo in the later part of the 90s, and they had a nice little squad. The Clippers let a great player go essentially for nothing and sucked for many more years. That's all I got to say about it, man. Tell me what you guys think.